Hello, welcome to my 6th railway film, The Railways of North Lincolnshire, Part 2. This film concentrates on the two other branch lines towards Wrawby Junction, the route from Lincoln and the route from Scunthorpe. The branch line from Lincoln was opened by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company between Barnetby and Market Rasen on the 1st of November 1848, and the extension to Lincoln 2 months later. In the 1980s, this route was used by passenger services between Cleethorpes, Newark and the Midlands. Freight services were mainly petroleum traffic from Immingham. The branch line from Scunthorpe, known as the South Yorkshire route, was opened by the Trent, Ancombe and Grimsby Railway Company as a single line between Barnetby and Scunthorpe in 1863. It was doubled a year later. In the 1980s, it was used heavily by freight traffic to and from Immingham, and by a passenger service between Cleethorpes, Sheffield and Manchester. We begin our film on the Lincoln line, starting at Reepham. Reepham signal box, built for the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company, opened in 1890. From Fiskerton Lane side of the level crossing, we watch as an empty petrol train passes on the up main line on its way to one of the oil refineries on Immingham Dock. Once the train clears, the signalman records the freight train's time in the box register. A short time later, a double-headed empty petrol train passes through. In the early 1980s, British Petroleum discovered oil at Welton and they built an oil terminal. It opened to rail on the 21st of May 1986 and Reepham signal box controlled its connection as is shown on the signal box diagram. 3 trains a week were diagrammed to work between storage sidings on Immingham Dock. Empty trains had to travel to Lincoln for the engine to run round its train. On arriving back, it would be propelled into the terminal and wagons placed in loading bays. The engine would then return to Immingham Locomotive Depot. As soon as the wagons had been loaded, a light engine would return. A train was then formed and taken to Immingham storage for unloading. A main-to-main facing crossover within Langworth signals was laid to save trains running to Lincoln and back. As it became usable, empty trains were hauled into the terminal and the engine would run round its train inside. The same procedure for placing the wagons for loading would then occur. This photograph shows a loaded oil train from Welton Oil Terminal on its way to Immingham East storage sidings. On the down main line, passing Welton Oil Terminal, is a Cleethorpes to Newark Northgate passenger train. Passenger trains on this route were served by trains working between Cleethorpes, Newark and the Midlands. From Reepham, the next signal box was Langworth. It was built in 1890 for the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company with a Type 3 designed lever frame. As there were no trains on the block, the signalman was having a few minutes rest. Welton Oil Terminal's main-to-main crossover was not shown on the signal box diagram as it was waiting to be commissioned. As soon as it became up and running, Langworth's signal box took over control. The busy A158 Rugby Road Highway passes over the railway at Langworth. The signalman uses this control unit to operate the level crossing barriers. The Lincoln route was littered with level crossings operated by resident gatehouse keepers, like this one at Scunthorpe. Level crossing gates were closed to road traffic and only opened on request. The gatehouse keeper, working between 6 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, used trackside indicators to identify approaching trains. As you can see, there are no trains currently in either sections, signifying it was safe to open the gates for road vehicles requiring to pass through. On the day of filming, it was the gatekeeper's day off, and relief railmen covered the post. When I arrived at the crossing, it was shift changeover time, and the afternoon crossing keeper was arriving on his bike. The yellow tape you can see cordoned off automatic half barriers equipment, which were to be installed in the very near future. The next level crossing on the route was Snelland. The old railway station on the other side of the crossing closed in 1985. 4 years later, automatic half barriers were installed and the signal box was demolished. This photograph shows the box a few weeks prior to its closure. The next signal box along the route still working was Wickham. It was built in 1890 and contained a Type 3 designed signal lever frame. 100 years later, the frame was removed and replaced with this small signal control panel. As there was no mechanical wheel to open and close the gates, the signalman was required to walk down the box steps and operate them by hand. There were only 2 gates, and both were positioned on the Market Rasen side of the level crossing. The signalman had secured the gates for the passage of a passenger train travelling from Cleethorpes to Newark Northgate. Once the train clears the crossing, the signalman returns to reopen the gates for road traffic. Two other level crossings were located on the route towards Market Rasen station. At the first one, Lissingly, a light engine passes through. Passing through the next one, at Bustlingthorpe, was a freight train carrying fertiliser from Immigham's Norsk Hydro factory. It was the gatekeeper's job to check their front door line side indicators before allowing road traffic through. On this day, the gatekeeper must have had a day off, as Derek Morris, a relief crossing keeper, was on duty. The line side cabin in which he worked contained duplicate indicators.
I think Frank at Alton's finally bought that out, hasn't he, or his wife.
The only passenger station on the route was Market Rasen. This was its entrance. Before 1965 there were 10 stations on the route between Wrawby Junction and Lincoln. British Rail closed 9 and Market Rasen was the only one left open. The station was opened by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company on the 1st of November 1848. This is the original building's frontage. When pay trains were introduced in 1968, the booking office closed and the station became unstaffed. Covering the platforms was a steel girders roof which was taken down for the war effort. The 2 open platforms remain. The one on the left is the down platform for Lincoln and Newark passengers, and the one on the right is for Barnaby, Grimsby and Cleethorpes passengers. The station has no footbridge and its passengers have to cross the railway lines by this sleeper crossing under the control of these small light signals. Next along the route, Claxby and Usselby level crossing on Park Road was operated by this signal box until the 22nd of April 1989, when it was replaced with half barriers. The last block post towards Wrawby Junction was Haltonley Moor. It opened in 1890 with an 18-lever frame and level crossing gates. Working between Wickenby and Wrawby Junction in 1989, the lever frame was replaced by this small panel and full level crossing barriers over the A46 highway. This Newark Northgate to Cleethorpes passenger train, passing Wrawby Junction's signal gantry, marks the end of the Lincoln branch line. Because Wrawby Junction's details were discussed in my last film, The Railways of North Lincolnshire Part 1, we will give the junction a miss and continue the film with the branch line between Wrawby Junction and Scunthorpe. We begin from the front cab of a locomotive approaching on the up line towards Wrawby Junction. Colour light signalling from Elsham was the only section of the line towards Wrawby Junction provided with these types of signals. This branch line, under the name of the Trent, Ancombe and Grimsby line, was commonly known as the Scunthorpe branch. It opened in 1866 as far as Wrawby Junction for goods trains on the 1st of May and for passenger trains on the 1st of October. It became under the control of the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company in 1882. Absolute block working was introduced to Elsham in 1866. We are now reversing our direction of travel, filming from the front cab of a locomotive hauling a loaded coal train from Immingham to Scunthorpe. Having left Wrawby Junction on the down main line, we are now heading towards Elsham Station. As we pass under the M180 road bridge, Elsham Station can be seen in the distance.
Right, there you go. It wouldn't have he was just, I don't know, he just flipped his lid that time, didn't he?
Elsham Station opened on the 1st of October 1866 with staggered platforms and was a lively little station until after the Second World War. During the 1980s it was little used, and on the day of filming it was still in use. However, British Rail were looking to close it, and they succeeded in 1993. This was unfortunate, for it would have made an ideal station for the inhabitants of Brigg. Elsham signal box, standing next to the level crossing at the side of the up main line, opened in 1885 with a 22-lever frame. Signalman Dave Habergan exchanges with Appleby signal box 5 beats on the bell for a Class 6 freight train. After recording the bell signals in the train register, he begins to open the level crossing gates. Once the level crossing was secure, he clears his signals for a train of steel coils from Grimsby Docks. He sends 2 beats on the bell to Appleby signal box, indicating the train was entering the section ahead. Once it had cleared, a non-stopping Cleethorpes to Doncaster passenger train passes through. After the out-of-section bell signal had been sent to Wrawby Junction, he accepts another 6-speed freight train. After passing under the M180 bridge on the down main line, the train, a 6-speed iron ore freight train hauled by 2 Class 37 locomotives, can be seen passing through Elsham Station on its way to Santon Foreign Ore Terminal. Returning again to the front cab of our loaded coal train, we pass a train of coal empties travelling from Scunthorpe's coal handling plant on its way to the Immingham Bulk Terminal. Our train is now approaching Appleby Link signal box, which was built for the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company in 1885. It gained Grade 2 listed building status on the 6th of January 1987. We are now passing the station's former goods yard, where a few rusty old rails remain. As I entered Appleby Link's signal box, the signalmen were changing over shifts. Norman Green was signing off duty and his relief Nick Smith was signing on. On the up main line, another train of coal empties from Scunthorpe's coal handling plant passes through. While standing on land of the old goods yard, I filmed a Class 47 locomotive hauling one of the many loaded Immingham Oil Refinery's petrol trains. We return again to the front cab of our coal train as it leaves Appleby, heading towards Santon Foreign Ore Branch at Scunthorpe, which was owned by British Steel. At the end of the double cave is Scunthorpe Power Box Signal S21. It's the entry signal for the Santon Foreign Ore branch line. Our train, however, is heading to Scunthorpe's coal handling plant. This is a point of entry to the branch line and the main-to-main crossover used by empty ore trains returning back to Immingham's bulk terminal. Inside the foreign ore branch, a Class 60 locomotive 60037 named Helvellyn is arriving via the line from Appleby with a fully loaded iron ore train from Immingham's bulk terminal. The train passes British Steel's tippler plant on its way towards the stop blocks of the tippler line. When the locomotive reaches a limit stopboard clear of points, the driver stops the train. The shunter takes the tail lamp from the rear wagon and points are then set towards the tippler plant in readiness for the train to be propelled onto empty wagons inside the plant building. This is British Steel's tippler plant, in which the mechanical mule on the left is used to move wagons during the unloading procedure. Before this could be done, the loaded train had to push empty wagons from the previous train through the bunker and outside the other end of the plant. The empty wagons form the next train back to Immingham. Once the wagons were out the other end, the driver hauls the loaded train back until the first wagons are placed alongside the mechanical mule. The locomotive, when detached from the train by the terminal shunter, returns towards the stop blocks. The points are then changed to allow it to return onto the run-round line. Malcolm Cryer, the shunter in charge, then goes round the train, ensuring all handbrakes and automatic air brake pressure were released from the train. This enabled the mechanical mule to freely move the wagons. The locomotive, having returned on the run-round line, stops near the shunter's cabin for the driver to collect official paperwork needed for the empty train's return journey. Inside the shunter's cabin are daily logs and reports. With the time around 1400 hours, shunter's relief Trevor Davey arrives for the afternoon shift. Once the driver was ready to depart, he takes his locomotive to the front end of the empties train. Malcolm Cryer couples the engine to the train and attaches the air brake pipes. During the 1980s, there was a daily iron ore service of 13 trains working between Immingham and Santon. After the air brake test had been carried out, the train is hauled clear of the tippler plant towards the departing signal. Returning to our loaded iron ore train, the tippler operator in this control room prepares for the unloading procedure. The mule, after being attached to the train, moves the first wagon into an emptying position. Once it was in position, another machine with hydraulic buffer arms was to secure the train from moving whilst the wagons were being unloaded. Once the first wagon was emptied, the mule would move the train so as to unload the next one. These wagons are tippler wagons containing non-rotary and special interlocking rotary couplings. It allowed each wagon to be tipped individually whilst still being coupled up in train formation. Special interlocking rotary couplings are fitted at the end of the wagons that are painted orange. The end with non-rotary couplings are identified by the colour grey. Coupling of wagons, therefore, must be such as to present a orange-grey formation. After the next wagon had been set in position for emptying, the hydraulic arms hold the train steady. Looking from the side of the tippler plant, we can see one of the wagons being tipped and returning back onto the rails. This clip from inside the plant shows the mule moving the train in readiness for the next vehicle. The machine once again rotates a wagon and iron ore is tipped onto a conveyor underneath. When empty, the wagon is then rotated back onto the rails. The terminal's engineer checks the procedure from the operations room above. Once the iron ore reaches the conveyor, it is moved into the stockyard. Here, iron ore is blended with lime from Melton Ross in readiness for making steel. Well, I hope you enjoyed the film. My next one, around the yards of Scunthorpe, entitled The Railways of the Scunthorpe Area, should be available before the end of the year. Well, take care. Bye.